People are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on old race cars and even older other cars that you've never even heard of, which will go for more. And will this market stay on fire? This is Bid Nerds. We're going to find out. The bidding starts now. Bid Nerds is your YouTube car game show. Yes, it is. Welcome, everyone. We always make up the beginning of the show as we do it. My name is John Polnick, and we are coming to you live from the Container Park in downtown Las Vegas, as well as my partner way over on the far side of the screen, Michael Deeb in San Francisco. And who is the lovely lady in between us on the show tonight? Michael Deeb.
JP, we are so excited to have our guest, Elana Scherr, the senior feature editor at Car and Driver magazine, all around badass. Elana, thank you so much for joining us from LA in your lead up to Car Week. I'm sure you're going to be busy as a bee. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about some cars for sale and definitely not buy any of them.
So Elana, you've been in the car and motorcycle and racing world for about 20 years now. You started as a fabricator of sorts, making carbon fiber bits for racing motorcycles, parlayed that into a job working with Hot Rod magazine, and now find yourself in an area of grave responsibility with Car and Driver. Really quickly, what was the initial draw for you into all things fast and mechanical?
Oh, it was such a weird, wobbly path in. I didn't grow up in a car family. I didn't even have a driver's license until I was 21. I still don't have a motorcycle license. I can kind of ride a motorcycle, even though I worked in motorcycle racing for 6 years. But I went to art school. I thought I was going to be a gallery artist, but I liked the way that cars looked initially. And then I bought a car and I had to learn how to drive. So I bought a car. And then I had to learn how to fix it because it was a classic car. And once I kind of fell into that community, I was like, oh, these people are so fun. And this is so fun. And having cars is so freeing. And being able to work on them is like a really exciting way to spend your weekends. And you can buy them and you can sell them and you can get new ones. And you can't hurt their feelings. And it's great.
That is an awesome story. I'm just going to say, speaking on behalf of the entire nerd herd, 95% of us can relate to that. That is awesome. I love your art origins and then found design as your draw. And JP probably sells more cars than I do, and I'm a professional. So there you go. We can relate. JP, we have some more seriously cool cars to cover tonight, and obviously some fun ones to recap from the last show. All these fancy cars, Elana, that we are seeing come to market in the lead up to Car Week. This is actually a really fun time to have you on the show because we really do have some badass cars. JP, what else? Should we do a shout out to our good friend Chris Carbine?
I was going to do that after the break, but
let's do that.
Now that you brought it up. Let's go ahead and do it. All right.
Yeah, so Ann Leatherby sent us these incriminating photos of our dear friend Chris Carbine down in New Orleans, Louisiana. On his 66th birthday, Chris Carbine and his fiancée have decided that they will spend their evening watching the Bid Nerds. So from everybody, these two hosts and everybody in the nerd herd, a big shout out to Chris Carbine. Thank you, Ann, for helping us roast Chris on his birthday. Look at that, Elana. You're in Chris's living room right there.
Happy birthday.
That might actually be Ann's. I'm guessing that Chris has been kidnapped to the far reaches of Alabama, where if he screams, nobody will hear him. But Chris, happy birthday, Ann. We love you. Big shout out to those guys.
All right, we love you, Chris. All right, hey, Elana, do you have a speaker on? We're getting a little bit of feedback. Sorry for the technical stuff, folks.
Do not have a speaker.
On? Okay, well, just let us know if you guys are hearing that in the nerd herd. We've got the benefit of the nerd herd watching us live, and they can tell us if the audio feed has any issues. All right, what do we do on the show? If you're new to the show and you're going, what is going on? What is this thing they were talking about? Like the market, is it hot? Is it going to keep going? There is definitely a bull market going on in classic and collectible cars. And the big question tonight is it going to continue. We're going to look at predictions that we made on the last episode and see if there is a trend, and then we make new predictions. That's the fun part. If you don't know what we do on the show, we find the most interesting cars from all the automotive enthusiast auction sites like Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, and P-Car Market. We analyze the listings, and then we tell you what we think the results of those listings will be. And we always start off every episode by, we go back and talk about our predictions from the last episode and hold ourselves accountable. That's just weird on the internet. So let's just get to it. What was the first car we made a prediction on the last episode? Michael Deeb.
All right, JP, the new regime at P-Car Market are bringing better cars to their site. Take a look at this 2018 Porsche 991.2 generation Turbo S Coupe that is one of the 500 for the world exclusive series special editions. Basically, they take a Turbo S, which already has, an upgraded motor and slightly better tires, and usually it come with carbon ceramic brakes and all of the aero and cool things. But the Turbo exclusive kicks it up even more. So they get a few more horsepower, in this case up to, I think, about 607 brake horsepower from the 3.8 liter twin turbo motor. You get special aerodynamics. You've got 3 special colorways. You've got carbon roof and carbon front trunk, which is not standard, I think, on the standard Turbo S. And those are shaped differently. JP, a double bubble roof, and the stripes are exposed carbon down the front of the front hood. These cars are numbered 500 for the world. I'm sure several hundred of them came to the U.S. The cars have, initially, JP, these cars were trading for big money, usually about $100,000 over MSRP. These cars were about 280 to 300 grand. And currently, John, they trade for, on average, $292,000 for the coupes in the secondary market. That comes from classic.com. JP, I like the car that was here. It does have 5,000 miles, so it doesn't make it one of, there's definitely a bunch of these that have less than 1,000 miles, and I'm sure there's a handful that have delivery miles. I think those cars would bring over the 292, but I don't think this one with 5,000 miles would have a chance to get there. My bid for this site, JP, was $275,000. John, you took the under. You were more bearish on this car. You were, and the platform, $225,991 was your bid. And third nerd guest host on our last show was none other than British, now American sports car racer Justin Bell. Justin was a great host. He was really fun to have on the show. Justin split the difference between us, JP, 255 grand. So, Elana, we're going to throw you to the fire. This was a limited edition Porsche that they made for about 1 year, and they sold them to their best customers. They were significantly higher than the standard MSRP of a basic Turbo S, but you got a numbered car with exclusive pieces and more horsepower. Porsche cars that are numbered tend to bring big money in the secondary market. The market for these has cooled a bit. What do you think this car might have hammered for on P-Car Market just a few days ago?
I have a question for you on this car. Have there been several of them for sale over the last year in this color, or the same one?
No, several of them.
Doesn't that, emotionally, doesn't that affect the feeling of exclusivity if everybody bought it and immediately was like, I don't even want it? All right, well, people go nuts. They go nuts for carbon fiber wheels. It's it's an unusual color. I feel like this is still a car that has some heat to it. So you said you guessed 275?
Yep.
I'm going to go 1,000 over that. What's that?
All right, 276. Yeah, and you'd be in the hunt. Our car hammered at $245,750 where it failed to sell. The high bid on the car right now, the current high offer, is a little bit more than that. It's $267,500, and the owner of the car has still said no. With P-Car Market, when a car fails to sell, they offer it for about 21 days in their exclusive classified section called Marketplace. This car is available to buy now at an asking price of $285,000. So JP, at this point, we're about $17,500 between what they're asking for and what the high bid is. I have a sneaky suspicion this car will probably sell because it seems like they're so close, and they've gotten 3 post-hammer offers on the car, if you believe what we've read here. 285 to me is not a bad asking price. If the car could be had for 270 or 275, I think that's fair money for a fair car that is fairly exclusive. Where are you at on this result? I mean, I know we criticize P-car market all the time, but we're right here. We're on the cusp of a deal. They got to get something done in the next 24 hours, or this trail goes ice cold. But JP, what do you think? Do you think we're in the hunt, or do you think this is an abject failure? Where are you at on this particular listing?
This is definitely another P-car market waste of time. There are at least two of them for sale on Car Gurus, I think, right now. Now they want like 350 or whatever. So it's like, what do we guys? Why are we even doing this, guys? There's a certain type of buyer for these particular cars, and I talked about it a little bit on the last episode. The famous comedian Tim Dillon has a great bit where he talks about there's a certain type of tourist that goes to a place like the Philippines, and they pretend to be very empathetic. You know, they'll go to the 5-star hotel on the beach and they'll be like, yeah, I want the crab empanadas. And then the server comes to the room server comes in and they're like, oh, the menu said that there were 5 empanadas. I only see 4 here. And then the server's like, yeah, well, we're kind of shorthanded because, you know, our whole family was killed in the tsunami. And then the tourist is all like, yeah, oh, that's terrible. Oh, that's so awful. Yeah, but is there going to be a 5th empanada? Can I get that 5th empanada? Can you get that for me? I'm so sorry about your family. But the 5th empanada, maybe throw in a 6th one since for our trouble. You know, that's the person that buys this car. This is ridiculous. This is conspicuous consumption. The person that wants this already has a GT3, whatever, GT this, GT that, and nobody wants this car. This car was just like, Porsche was like, oh, we have that certain section of customers that still have money left after they've bought everything else they could buy from us. So let's make some other stupid thing with a bubble roof, and get another $500,000 from them.
I will not hear anything against a double bubble roof. That's
double bubble roof.
That's a Viper move. That's a good move.
Yes,
that's a Zagato move. That's a Zagato move.
Very nice. Would you pay an extra $200,000 for the bubble? That's the big question of the night. All right, guys, what do you think? Am I wrong, or are you with Elana? Bubble roof is worth an extra couple $100,000. Let us know in the comments. Actually, before we move on from this car, because Elana, I know you've got a history in this whole carbon fiber thing. I know those carbon fiber wheels are absurdly expensive, and I like the idea of them. But what do you think of, like, if you're buying a car? You brought up the astute point that isn't this supposed to be exclusive? Well, you're buying a car that's exclusive and it comes with the exclusive wheels, and you're going to change the wheels even if they're carbon fiber. Does that make sense? What do you think of that?
Well, having worked in carbon fiber, I would not daily drive a car with carbon fiber wheels. That is a racing part, for good reason, in my opinion. But they do look really cool. I mean, I think that if whoever buys this car, for whatever the price that they pay for it, if they drive it, they should just drive it. It's like a pretend exclusive, so just drive it, and then you get to drive a really cool car that people are going to look at as you drive by. If you're just going to park it and then sell it with delivery miles on it, like, dude, just don't do that. Just like, it's just a terrible waste, you know? It's not a one of one.
If I had pearls, I would clutch them. How dare you? You were kicked out of the PCA. This is the way. You buy a car that's super exclusive. You can't drive it and take it and the places. You have to get your diaper out and wipe it down. All right, let us know what you guys think of this diaper car. And, the people that buy this probably wear diapers. Just another note there. All right, let's move on to the next car. What do we got?
Oh, my.
What do you really think?
Yeah. JP's sitting on the fence here. All right, JP, we're going to circle back to our 2013 BMW M3 Coupe. Of course, this is an E92 generation M3 Coupe with the V8. Our car does have a manual 6-speed transmission and is showing just 45,800 miles as it came to market on Cars and Bids on a clean Washington title located down in Portland, Oregon. You may notice that the car has aftermarket wheels, and they are to complement the added performance because somebody in this car's history added a supercharger because 400 horsepower, JP, just isn't enough. Let's add forced induction and probably over another 100 brake horsepower to the equation. Look, these cars are beautiful. They're super fun to drive. They're having a bit of a moment. They're really holding their value well, and some of the nice ones are bringing good money. The question I thought, JP, that would be fun to ask about this car is if you modify the motor and add performance, do you add to the secondary market, value of the car? Our car was on Cars and Bids. Our friends at classic.com tell us that E92 M3 coupes with a manual on average only bring $33,000. Now, our car has low miles, but it also has the aftermarket wheels and the aforementioned supercharger. JP, I thought that those would add value to the car, and I thought the car would hammer for $55,000. JP, again, ever the bearish one of the two of us, your bid, you said that it wouldn't even break 40 grand. Your bid, $39,999. And Justin Bell, who loved this car and joined us as third nerd on the last show, Justin, again, splitting the difference between us. To see the theme, Elana, he wasn't sure where to bid, so he just split between us. He came in at $47,000. So, Elana, the market average is only 33, but this is a low-mile car with a lot of added performance. Everybody seems to think it'll bring more than 33. I'm the high man at 55. JP's the low man at 40. What's your bid? And have you driven one of these manual M3s with the V8? Did you ever review the car? This seems like it might be right in your wheelhouse for a feature on one of the magazines you've worked for.
Well, when this car was new, I was at Hot Rod, so I was doing domestic cars only. So I don't think I'd ever. Yeah. I think I'd driven a BMW 2002, like the model, not the year.
Yeah.
And then since then, I have driven several older generations of M3 and M5, and they are a lot of fun. My question on this particular car would be, is it low miles because someone put the supercharger on and it doesn't run very well anymore? And then the other question would be, what is that clutch rated to if they put a bunch more horsepower into it? So those would both concern me.
Very good questions. And it's worth mentioning, JP, we both noticed that this listing on Cars and Bids, Freudian slip, Elana, I swear to God.
That's all right. As soon as we have auctions, we'll be right here.
Yeah. Now that we know that your editor is watching, I don't want to get you in trouble. But on Cars and Bids, we don't see cars with this good a presentation, JP. So I really thought that this car would make it all the way to hammer. And JP, that's just not what happened. Our car was bid to $40,992, where it failed to sell on 20 bids. JP, I know that you were very close to a Yahtzee with your bid. You almost got the number exactly right. You were basically off by $1,007. But what I want to say is, even though that's where the bidding stopped on this car, I still think that the car we're looking at is worth more than that number. I'm sure you're going to argue my point that, hey, man, that's all the money. But I think that I'm not saying money left on the table. I just feel like, I don't know. I don't know why this car didn't sell. I think that this car should have got another $5,000 to $10,000 and it should have sold. And I'm surprised that they got off it at 41. When I look at what's there, I don't look at that as a $41,000 car, and I'm bummed Cars and Bids just weren't able to get it done. 20 bids is a low bid count. I don't know. Help me unpack this one. I'm kind of crushed. I would have thought that presentation and that caliber of car would have found more money, and it didn't. Man, heartbreak. Where you at?
Yeah, an E92 M3, when these came out, was that 08. The contemporary, the contemporary that it was going after was, of course, the 911. So I can't remember which magazine. I was hoping to hear Elana say that she wrote the article, but I remember whoever wrote that. I remember reading a specific article that took both the E92, a stock E92 M3, and a stock 997 base. They took it out on the track. The 997 base, I think, had 325 horsepower, give or take, and the BMW had almost 100 horsepower more. from the factory, and they both had identical track time. So not all horsepower is equal, right? So even though this thing had 100 more horsepower, it couldn't beat the 911. So here you've got one with a supercharger that gets it another 100 horsepower. You can finally beat a 911. And I think that answers the question, Deeb, is that if you're going to spend $40,000, most people get into BMWs because they're German car heads. Maybe they started out in Volkswagens, then they move up to a BMW. That's usually their first foray in the rear wheel drive kind of sports car thing, and then ultimately they wind up getting a Porsche. And if you have this car and you're going, or you're looking at this car and you're going, $40,000, I can get a 997 or a BMW, you're right there on the bubble. These made sense at $35,000. When Classic.com says they're $33,000, that makes sense. But you get up to 40, even with a supercharger and all the extra cool stuff, you can get a nice 997. So why wouldn't you? Elana, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that for the kind of cars that appeal to, let's say, less than super wealthy collectors, so people who are actually purchasing a car to use it, which is where I put a lot of the M3 buyers, some of the base Porsche buyers, certainly a lot of the like more common Japanese car buyers. They want to drive a car. They want a nice car, but they want to drive it. But once you get to 40 grand, you're already into new car money. Like there's almost nothing that you can get that's really fun to drive for less than 40,000. I mean, there are a few, but they're you're going to be pretty base and they're not going to be super high horsepower. But then once you get to 40, there's quite a lot of good new cars that you could choose from too. So then you're competing not just with other classic cars, but also with just a brand new car that will let you have financing and stuff, which makes it so much easier to buy it. So I think that for me, looking at cars and talking to people about buying cars, 40 is really an important boundary point in purchasing cars.
Yeah, that really is the threshold, isn't it? That's a good point. Also I wanted to bring up, Rich in the Nerd Herd mentions that, BMW doesn't make anything this cool. Again, if BMW
That's right.
I feel like BMW is in trouble. Like nobody knows what they make anymore, and I don't think anybody cares. And if BMW wanted to turn things around, all they'd have to do is bring back the M3 as a two-door, get rid of all this silly nomenclature, make it simple. You got a 3 Series, you got a 5 Series, you got a 7 Series, and that's it. Quit screwing around with all these extra models and make a pure M3 sports car. People would come back and maybe make the grills not the size of garbage cans. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. We got a lot of cars to cover. What's the next thing on the list?
All right, JP, we are going to quickly circle back to the 1988 Pontiac Fiero Formula Mera with a V6. This particular car, JP, was listed out of Council Grove, Kansas, and is showing a whopping 91,000 miles on the odometer. We forgot to just commend whoever owned this car for getting 91,000 miles out of a Fiero without it having been a total write-off, let alone that it's one of the special Ferrari fakes with the Mera designation. From the front, JP, I'm not buying it. Man, the rear three-quarter view, this thing looks like a 308. I'm sure the taillights are actually Ferrari part numbers. Shocking. By the way, this car also has an automatic transmission, and somebody still drove it 91,000 miles. I'm losing my mind on this one. JP, Classic.com tells us that the average selling price of a Fiero Mera is $14,000, and they do not denote between the automatic and the manual. I would think the manuals would bring way more. So, JP, my bid on this car was $15,000, and I wasn't even comfortable with that. You took the over at $19,999, and Justin Bell, ever the diplomat. Justin, thanks for coming on the show. He split the difference between us again. He is, I'm telling you, that guy is driving himself straight to politics. $17,500 was his bid. So somewhere between 14 and 20, Elana, is where this car is expected to hammer. Do you remember Pontiac Fieros, and do you remember that they actually sold these things new where they looked exactly like a 308 Ferrari? What would be your bid on this one with an automatic?
Exactly.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I'm going to go under. I'm going to give it 13. But I will say, look at the other cars that we've already talked about, which I think everyone, whether they like BMW and Porsche or not, whether they like exclusive cars or not, would be like, those are way better cars. And yet those cars have like no miles on them. And this car has had a life. Somebody really enjoyed driving this car. So maybe we're wrong. And this is the car that people should be trying to buy. Clearly it's fun to drive.
There's a take, JP. How about that?
Solid take.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. A hot take. Thank you, Elana. Could not agree with you more. Our car hammered for a whopping $16,550, and you bet it sold. Take the money and run. 13 bids is all it took. Justin was the closest. JP, I know you had given it to me, but he was actually 900 away. I was 1,500 away. So Justin gets himself another win. Anything to unpack from that result, JP? That's all the money for this car, but the car does look to be in really good condition for 91,000 miles.
Yeah, Alana's totally right. If you had a parking lot with 5 real 308s, I doubt combined they would have 90,000 miles. That's a really good point. All right, let's move on. What do you guys think of the results of the dumbass Fiero? Let's move on to the next car. What do we got?
All right, JP, our buddy Ingo from Genau Auto Works, who is an excellent seller on BAT, ran this 2004 Porsche 911 Turbo Cabriolet that is equipped with both a 6-speed manual transmission and Porsche's X50 special performance option, which gives you bigger turbos, a better intercooler, and I think slightly different internals. It only shows a little more horsepower on the output, but this motor is a .2 by every metric. This would be the motor in the later offerings as a Turbo S. If you didn't want to spend on all the things that came with the Turbo S, you could just get a regular turbo and get the upgraded motor. This car is an alumni listing on Bring a Trailer. It's shot in Genau's Novato studio. It looks beautiful in slate gray. The car only has 37,000 miles. There was some sort of collision or whatever on the Carfax, but this is a really desirable car in excellent condition with an excellent presentation. JP, we had to run through this at the end of our last show, but I do like this car, and it's great to see Ingo doing like he's just busting ass. So Don, our friends at classic.com tell us that a turbo cab is $59,000 in the secondary market. They do not have an ad for the X50, which is a bummer because those cars are quantifiably more valuable in the secondary market. With that in mind, I thought this car would bring, about 10% more. My bid, $65,000. JP, you liked my bid so much, you stole it. $64,996. And Justin Bell, this was finally the car that he was more bullish on than the two of us. He went over at $68,000. So, Elana, we are obviously turbo heavy. We don't do the domestics that much as we fancy ourselves a couple of knucklehead Porsche guys. Have you ever driven one of these 996 turbos, and what's your bid on this car?
I have driven a 996 turbo, and I think that convertible Porsches don't get the respect that they deserve for being fun. I am a Targa person myself just because I think visually they look better, but if you want a convertible, it's like a fun, sporty convertible. You said Justin went 68. I'll do 66.
66. Elana, you're in the hunt. Our car did really well. JP, it hammered for $71,000
wow.
where it sold on 38 bids. 996s, I don't want to say they're having a moment, but they're holding strong in what's been a volatile and predominantly soft market most of the year. What we've seen from the Metzger 996s, JP, is that the X50s and particularly the Turbo S's have really brought, if they're good cars, have brought really good money. And so this car getting to 71, I'm sure makes the seller happy. It makes Genau happy, makes Justin Bell happy. And it makes me happy for obvious reasons. So well done, well sold, great presentation. We got to get Ingo on the show with us and catch up with him. It's been more than a year. We'd love to have him back. JP, anything to unpack from that result before we go to commercial break?
Yeah, I don't know if it's obvious to everyone else. My partner has one of these. He has the coupe version of this particular car. And yeah, the Metzgers are where it's at. Look, I mean, who in the right mind wouldn't rather have this than that stupid gold turbo exclusive that we started at the top of the show with? You know, that car, they want 3 times or more the money than this car. And this car has, you know, at least a third more pedals than the other one does, which makes it way more interesting and way more fun to drive. And I'm glad
and less top.
Right, exactly. And, you know, well, no, the other one was a convertible too, wasn't it? Or
no,
was
it was a coupe.
I thought it was a hard coupe.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Double bubble, baby.
Double bubble, baby. That's right. Yeah, no, just chop that carbon fiber off with a Sawzall and call it good. Yeah, I'm glad to hear you're not a cabrio-phobe, Elana. You're the best guest we've ever had. All right, let's, thanks, guys. We're going to come back with all new predictions. We've got some really interesting cars, like we teed it up at the beginning of the show. So I'm looking at my Hoursmith's watch, and it's time for a quick break. We will be right back. Don't go away.
Hey guys, Vegas Auto Fest, presented by Lamborghini Las Vegas and Audi Henderson, is the most Vegas car show of the year. And it's happening at Red Rock Country Club, September 13th. Cars, food, music, showgirls, and amazing prizes. Tickets start at just $20. Kids under 16 are free.
See you at Vegas Auto Fest 2025.
Vegas Auto Fest is September 13th at the Red Rock Country Club, presented by Lamborghini Las Vegas and Audi Henderson.
Vegas Auto Fest, the drivers are coming.
That's right. The drivers are coming. Elana, how do we get you out to Vegas on September 13th for our big Vegas Auto Fest here? It's the biggest car show of the year in Las Vegas.
I think it is the exact same week as Car and Driver 10 Best, but I'll keep it in mind for the next
we've got 10 extra parking spots we can give you. No problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Done.
Absolutely.
Man, you're calling the right people here. All right, let's get after it, guys. I'm looking at my Hoursmith's Aviera watch, and it is time for predictions. What's the first car on the list, Michael D? We've been waiting for this.
All right, JP. We have covered one or two of these, I think, before, since we've been doing the show for a handful of years. I love the 1992 Porsche 911 Carrera Cup. This is a USA model. It is the closest thing that we got in the US to a real 964 RS. JP, to go along with what I believe was the Indy series in 1992, Porsche decided to do a Cup series. So at 12 of the 17 races for IndyCar, they would send the Porsche Cup cars as sort of an undercard event for an IndyCar weekend. As such, Porsche made 45 exclusive, basically RSs for the American market and imported them to the United States. And while they were on the ground at the port waiting to be distributed to the right dealerships, the basically Porsche PCNA or Porsche Motorsports in North America and the folks at IndyCar fell out of favor, and this series, the Cup as an undercard event for Indy racing that year, fell apart. So these cars languished, and I don't think any of these cars actually sold in 1992, but over the next year or two, Porsche quietly sold these cars to certain dealers that had people that wanted to buy them. Now, some of the cars were prepared, like you see the one here, with a roll cage in it and no carpet. These cars have seam welded chassis and the upgraded 260 horsepower motor. But some of the cars, JP, were finished with carpet and leather base seats. I think roll up windows. They're all slick tops, but they share many of the European RS parts. And these cars were sold on WPO non-ZZZ VINs, and they're road legal in the United States. Now, this particular car, JP, is a premium listing. It's an alumni listing. It is listed by the good folks at this Matt Crandall at 911R out of Portland, Oregon. And so this car is up in the Pacific Northwest. It's one of the 45. It was converted by Andial to essentially be a race car. And that's sort of where you see it here. What I think is going to be interesting, JP, is as this car comes to market, it is obviously prepared more for the track and less for the street. And so while we will talk about what the values are for this particular model, I think this car is less likely to achieve those numbers because as it sits, it's more narrowly focused to be used as a second or third car almost exclusively on a closed circuit. This is not a car with a roll bar that runs across the front of your forehead that you would actually really want to drive on the street, unless your name was Rami, our good friend. So JP, super cool car, unbelievable provenance. It's one of the great cool stories that the Porsche was going to do. It's like this whole Cup series in the US, and we'd have our own cars here, and then it went sideways. But these cars all made it through the dealerships, and these cars, all of them still exist. They're very sought after, even though they're very not well known, if that makes any sense. I've always been a huge fan because we never got the real RS here. RS Americas are a marketing exercise. Those cars aren't that special. They're cool. I've owned one. But this car here, JP, this is, if you're a driver, if you really like to drive your car and go left and right, this is the type of car that'll curl your toes. It's like an unbelievable machine. And yet to this day, JP, so few people outside of the real Porsche circles know what it actually is. So John, I send it back over to you. You're very well versed on what, people should or shouldn't drive on the street. This is a really cool car. It could be converted back to look like a basic 964 C2 coupe that is very special by removing the roll cage and laying the carpet down. But as it sits, JP, I think it puts a ceiling over the ultimate value of the car, despite its rarity. What is your take on it? And tell us how many times you've driven 964 RS, because I think you have and I haven't. So where are you at on the U.S. Cup car, JP?
Yeah, this is just an ultimate kind of driving machine right here. I mean, you get behind the wheel of this thing, you're going to have a good time, but hope you don't hit anything because your head's going to hit that darn. I mean, just the slightest accident is going to give you brain damage unless you're wearing a helmet. And that's the problem with these roll cages and stuff like this. I love it. It's badass. But the person who bought this back in 2021 here on BAT, for as great a driver as this car is, it's only been driven 1,000 miles. So what's the next person going to do? It's just going to sit in a garage and it's going to collect dust, and people are going to ooh and ah over it, and they'll bring it to Cars and Coffee. But someone's going to pay big money for it. We'll get the numbers in a minute. But Elana, what do you think of this car?
Well, I'm a big fan of race cars. I'm especially a big fan of street legal race cars. I also love gold wheels on anything. And I think this car looks great. There is always if you're purely talking value as a seller, the problem with any kind of half and half car is what can you do with it? Like you said, a lot of times they're really not safe to drive on the street. I mean, I have driven and ridden in many, many roll cage cars on the street, and every time you think, yeah, that could take me out, right? And then you can't wear a helmet while you're driving on the street. You look like a fool. But then you also, people who don't race might be like, oh, just go race it. But they don't realize like a lot of racing series have pretty specific rules about how the cars have to be built. So like, what does this fit in? What could you run it in? Is it old enough to run in like a Vara or NASA vintage race? Or is it, and it might be, I don't know. Cause this is a great story. I'm going to look it up. But, so then it kind of makes it just a track day car, which is great if you're the kind of person who has a spot at Thermal and wants to just keep it in their garage there and take it out, for the weekends. But if you're actually want to compete in it, you have to figure out where it would fit.
Yeah, converting this back to a street car. I mean, look at this. That cage is full blown welded in. That's going to be serious work to pull that thing out. Because I think that this car would look fantastic if it just had a regular interior, or even just remove the roll bar. But that's not going to be easy. What's it going to bring, Deeb?
All right, JB. Our friends at Classic.com tell us that the U.S. Cup car from 1992 typically brings $247,000 in the secondary market. Now, I mentioned that this car, our car, with just 21,000 miles, is running as an alumni listing, and that's because back in February of 2021, this car ran on Bring a Trailer out of Matthews, North Carolina, and it brought $210,000, and it looked very similar to the way it looks now, in that the gold BBS wheels were adorned, and that the interior was essentially, we say, gutted for racing with the roll cage and the fire system and the whole shebang. It was not presented at that time as a street car. The car is running in much the same way today. And while I think that with the low miles, if this car were prepared for the street, it would bring over the 247. I think this could be a $260,000 plus car, despite having previously done a lot of track and racing and all that stuff. If it were road ready, I think the car would bring a lot more money. JP, I don't know if it's worth mentioning, but 2 months ago, I sold one of these cars privately that had been gutted like this, but had been put back to street. And I sold that car for $235,000 privately. I think this car here today is maybe going to get a few dollars more than it got when it ran back in 2021. It is currently sitting at $150,000, JP. It still has 2 days to go until it hammers. And it's only on 6 bids. And again, the 6 bids tell me, JP, the narrow sort of the small net that a car like this casts. Despite it being desirable to a real gearhead like Elana and myself, I can't imagine spending $250,000 on a car that you'd have to spend maybe 20 grand on to put back to the street use, unless you were the guy that could afford that you had the garage at Thermal or Monticello or Spring Mountain or wherever. So JP, with that in mind, I am unfortunately bearish on this car. My bid at Hammer will be $222,000, and he should take that money because I think that's all the money for a car that is essentially presented as a race car. Unless he spends the money to convert it back to a street car, I think $222 would be all the dough. So JP, $222,000 to you. It's currently sitting at $150, but it has 2 days to go before it hammers. And a great presentation by 911R. Love the shots, love the car. But man, JP, you talk about driving an airplane through the needle of, a pin. I mean, my goodness, there's so few people that really want this.
There's no shortage of guys that have a parking spot at Thermal and Spring Mountain. And those, I mean, I know a membership of Spring Mountain is like $100,000 nowadays. So what's another couple $100,000 to have a really cool car like this one? I'm with you though. I don't think it's going to bring much more than it sold for last time. I think the chance to the person, if they bought it in early 21, they bought it just before everything took off and they held on to it too long. They only drove it 1,000 miles. If they had sold this thing a year later, in 2022, they would have gotten probably $300,000 for this car. But now I'm going to say $209,640 and hand it off to Elana. What do you think?
All right. Well, I'm going to go up from that a little bit just because there are so many people who like to own a Porsche that looks like a race car, even if it wasn't ever racing. So I'm going to go $219.
Nice bid. Nice bid. We're right in the hunt. There you go.
All right. What do you guys think of that 964? How much will it bring? And while you're thinking about that, if you're like going, man, my head hurts, I need something to contain my brain because I'm thinking about all these numbers, I think that means that you need yourself a Bid Nerds hat. Look at that. We've got them. AaronWaterDesign.com. I'll put the link in the description below. We've got t-shirts. Dana ordered his on the last episode, and we thank you for that order. Rochelle sent them out already, so make sure you go over there and get yourself a hat or a t-shirt. I think I'm wearing one too. Look at that. It's got a pocket and everything. You can get the ones with pockets or without. I'm so excited to have a pocket. When was the last time you wore a shirt with a pocket? I feel like I need to put something in there. All right, Deeb, what's the next car on the list?
All right, JP, blast from the past, total Radwood machine here. Feast your eyes on this 1995 Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR4 Spider. It's a 6-speed manual, twin-turbo V6, all-wheel drive with a power retractable hardtop. And as it is a Cars and Bids listing, this particular car has been reviewed by Doug DeMiro, which quantifiably will help sell this car. JP, the car, believe it or not, has 100,000 miles on the odometer. By that rationale, I think this car looks like it's in amazing condition. It's on a clean California title and listed out of San Diego, California. Now I have to start to wonder if it's Doug's car himself. JP, we've covered a few of these on the show that had particularly low miles and wondered if these cars will start to bring collector money for being the tour de force that they were back in the day, running as both a Dodge and as a Mitsubishi, and being owned by the same company. JP, this car has got particularly high miles, but we don't see them in this condition at any mileage. And we know that Radwood cars, young timers around the world, are having their moment. It is their time to shine. Will this car bring big dough? Where are you at on the 3000 VR Spider?
Yeah, this car, I think it was probably the first convertible hardtop in America. Mitsubishi was really swinging during this era, but this car was just, they just missed the mark. Yeah, this car would have been really great if they had been able to get it out a little earlier. Dodge sold a lot more Stealths. That's the same car basically, same chassis with different badging and everything. But I don't think Dodge ever made a convertible hardtop Spider version of it. Do you?
No, I don't think they did.
I think
only Mitsubishi did the Spider. Yeah.
Yeah, those chrome wheels, oof, that's rough duty. I do like that it's convertible, but I mean, at the same time this car was out, you had the 300ZX, you had the Supra, you had the Integra, you had the NSX, and then you roll up and this was Mitsubishi's offering compared to those cars? Yikes. All right. Elena, what do you think?
Well, I think they look good. I think they look like a Pontiac Firebird had a baby with an NSX. So I think they look cool. I love how the back seat is just like a little like scoop. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed that in the back seat. It's like this little like bowl that your back seat passengers sit in. It's those are chrome wheels. I can't imagine. I don't think they go for that much yet. Like you said, they had a lot of really good competition at the time, but the joy of buying classic cars now is that you can look back and say, oh, everybody kind of slept on this. It was actually pretty fun. It just got outmarketed or, outshone by its prettier sister or whatever. So there's no reason not to get into these things. It's not lame. It's not a lame car.
So you're saying it's the less attractive sister. Got it.
Not the less attractive.
Everybody's taking one for the team.
No.
All right, let's hear.
Not the less attractive sister. The quieter sister.
That's the dangerous one. That's the one you got to watch out for. All right, what's it going to bring?
It's the sister that goes topless, if I may. There you go. So, all right.
No, you may not.
Yeah. All right, JP. Our 1995 Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR4 Spider with 100,000 miles on the odometer, but a 6-speed manual, is currently at $20,000 on 9 bids, and our car closes on Cars and Bids tomorrow. JP, our friends at Classic.com tell us that the Spider VR4s, the 3000 GT VR4 Spiders, typically bring $31,000 in the secondary market. My bid from a few days ago when I selected the car was $20,000, but it's already there. And despite only having 9 bids, I do think this car is going to bring a few dollars more. So, JP, I'm just going to add a 2 to my bid. I'm going to go to $22,000 and say that it sells at my number because I think it's already in the money since it broke 20 grand. I mean, with 100,000 miles, JP, how much could they possibly be expecting? Where's your bid?
Yeah, that's tough to beat. I mean, 20 grand on Cars and Bids. I mean, good job for. I mean,
Well
Doug
done.
DeMiro, he's a weirdo. This is the weird car. It's a weird platform. What was your number? 22 what?
22 even, and I think it sells for my number because I think we're there. I think this car hitting 20 grand, it's selling.
I'm gonna park it right below you and give myself as 21,999 and hand it to Elana. What do you think?
Oh, I'll give it 22.5.
All right.
22.5.
Okay.
Wow, look at you guys give me no breathing room.
No breathing room for Deeb. I thought she was gonna
Watch
park
it-
below me and
Watch it goes for like 33, and then we all
It
feel
might.
silly.
right.
It might. I mean, it's probably one of the best running ones since it's got 100,000 miles on it. It's well broken in. The
It's
ones
hard.
we covered.
These cars are hard because I don't have nostalgia for them personally. Like I don't have a personal connection to them. I understand that why people do, but when you get in them, the plastic and everything is just dissolving. Like even if it looks good, it's crumbling. Like, and like I have a lot of 70s and even 80s cars, and they have plastic problems, but the plastic actually got worse. So the cars from the 90s and early 2000s, that plastic is like tissue paper. It's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean this started that whole era of like air ducts that went nowhere. Like the hole on the side that it just goes to a piece of plastic in the back. Speaking of plastic, the sensibilities. I don't know. Okay, enough about the 3000 GT. What else we got? We got more cars on the list. We got to get through them. What do we got?
All right, JP, one of my favorite cars is this 1995 BMW M3 Lightweight showing just 24,000 miles from new. Our car is a premium listing out of Richmond, Virginia on Bring a Trailer. And again, low miles, 24,000 miles. JP, a longer look at this car through the listing, for whatever reason, I'm infatuated with this particular model and have always wanted one. It turns out that this car has essentially been completely restored. They completely rebuilt the motor from 3-liter up to 3.2 liter. And they've taken the paint all the way down and repainted this car. So the question is, with a hot motor and hot rod clutch and some better suspension and an exhaust system and a new paint job, will this car bring more than one of the standard cars that are already highly collectible? When they made the Lightweight, JP, in 1995, they only built about 100 of those cars, and each of the motors for those cars was hand selected as the ones that bench tested to have the highest output before they were installed in any of the cars and the cars were constructed. So, a special model for the guys that were driving M3s and wanted to do either some club racing or just do some track days. BMW was pandering to their enthusiast audience by making a special car that cost a little bit less money and had higher performance envelope. These cars today are highly coveted by collectors, but I don't recall seeing one with low miles that has been so extensively redone. And will that bring a premium over an already super valuable collector car? And, we covered something like this on the last M3 that we looked at. So, JP, I send this over to you. Would a 3.2 with more power and a fresh paint job make you spend even more of your hard-earned green bucks on a Lightweight?
What's funny about this is, you and I are huge Porsche dorks, but I would rather have this car than that 964 Cup car that we talked about on this half of the show, because this car is usable. You could get after it in this thing, and you can take your best girl on a date, or best boy, as it were. This car is beautiful, and it's ready to go. This is not the quiet sister. Elana, what do you think of this car?
It's a real charmer. I love it. I love the sassy graphics. It looks really nice. It looks like whoever redid it did a good job and not just an auction flip paint job. So that's promising.
What's it going to bring, Deeb?
All right, JP. I actually think that this car and that Cup car would be a good match for a 2-car set to go on a track. I think the performance envelope of both cars would be shockingly similar and both super fun to drive. JP, our friends at Classic.com tell us that the average selling price of an M3 Lightweight in the secondary market is only $140,000. Low mileage original examples have regularly broken $200,000 at auction and privately in the secondary market. This car has extensive modifications which raise the performance envelope, but I think ultimately hurt its collectability and put a ceiling on its value. If this were a stock 24,000 mile example and was all original with no paintwork and whatnot, I think this would be a $180,000 car. But I think with the mods, you get more performance and you can save 20 grand. I think this car will be a tremendous value when it sells at 160 grand. So my bid, JP, is 160 grand. It is currently listed at $88,750, and it closes tomorrow. So it has a long way to go to get to my number, but I think that the real buyers for this car are waiting in the wings because I think the performance is too tantalizing, especially when other examples that are low mileage like this are regularly tripping over 200 grand. So I think 160 is totally in play, JP. I really like this car at my price. So 160 to you. Where you at?
Boy, young timers are not as stodgy as previous generations of car collectors. The fact that this thing is not original and doesn't have the original paint and all that kind of stuff, to the collector from 10, 15, 20 years ago, that would have made a big difference. But the young timers just going, this car's awesome and it does the things and it gives me all the fizz. I think your number's great. Do I go above you or below you? You say 160. I'm going to give it another $5,000. Go 165. $165,003 for the M3.
Ooh,
and
look at
hand
you.
it off to Elana. What do you think?
Wow, guys, you got it. It's got a long way to go from where it is right now. And also, in one of those photos, the windshield washer fluid is low. I saw that up on
Can I take
on the
back
light,
my bid?
so-
I'm rewriting the
I
rules
don't
of the show.
Right.
I mean, I have not ever shopped for any of the collectible BMWs, so I really don't have any personal experience to pull from this. So I'm just gonna go with like 155.
Very good bid, and you might land right on there, Elana. That's a good bid for this car. We will see. There you go, JP. One more. We got time for one more?
Yeah, we got time for one more.
All right, JP, our good friend Yuri has submitted for us to review this beautiful and rare 1953 Siata 208S Spider by Moto. I believe Moto is going to be the coach builder here. Siata is the constructor, and the underpinnings of this car are by Fiat. This is a car that would have been, like a club racer for a young prince or socialite back, after World War II. A young man would have gotten a car like this and gone racing. And this is at a time, like Elana had said earlier, a race car for the street, where he could have driven this car to a hill climb regionally in Central Europe or Western Europe, as it were, driven it to the event, performed in the event, and driven it back home, so long as he didn't crash. This was also a time when race car drivers were among the bravest men in the world, because there's no roll bars, JP, and this car did not originally come with seatbelts at all. But these cars, JP, are an absolute blast to drive. Imagine a 2-liter Fiat V8. I'm not sure that this is an Otto Vu. The Otto Vus, I think, were 1.5 liter. This 2-liter V8 was certainly serious kit, and 2-liter was kind of a threshold, JP. A lot of cars raced in an under 2-liter category, and then everybody else raced from 3 to 5 liters and above that. So this was really at that threshold, like the biggest of the small cars. Today, these cars are highly collectible, and it's interesting that this car has the owner of this car has decided to trust it to the good folks at WAB down in Newbury Park, California. It's one of 35 Spyders built, but that they've trusted it to WAB to go to bring a trailer rather than entering this in a live auction with one of the big auction houses. Now, certainly, it would cost them a lot less to run it with Rob than it would at one of the big auction houses, but it's still, there's still a premium to be paid, to get this car across the auction block. The question is, does a rare car like this do better just up for grabs on BAT, or do you want the folks that RM Sotheby's or Broad Arrow Group or Gooding making calls on this car to their collectors and ultimately trying to place the car with somebody? And so I sort of take umbrage that WAB, we know, sells really cool modern cars, but do they have the reputation or the client list, or are they just, as we say, kiting it, just throwing it up on Bring a Trailer and hoping to catch his wind and find somebody to drop $1.5 million on a super rare Italian car by a brand nobody's ever heard of? I understand Siatas because of my relationship to Rafi. I wouldn't profess to know anything about him, and yet I'm sure I know more about this car than anybody at WAB, and that's a bold statement, and it's not to take anything with them, but this just isn't a car that's in their wheelhouse. I think a car like this should have gone to a live auction, and so with 2 days to go, I wonder aloud if this car will make the mark. And it really depends on not Wobb's effort, but Bring a Trailer's potential success and this seller's realistic expectations of what Wobb can do with it on BAT. And that's mainly because, JP, the car's sitting at $500,000 and the Classic.com average for the model, the 208S, is $1.5 million. Do we think this guy's going to make another $1 million in the next 2 days? Or do we think the guy who's got 1.5 burning a hole in his pocket isn't going to wait and shop and see these cars, 2 or 3 cars similar to this, not exactly the same, down in Monterey, and where he can touch the car and talk to the guy that's representing it and have a glass of wine and think about it and then wait and show up and raise his hand at auction in front of all his friends. I just think that listing this car on BAT is the failure. I think this car has to go to a live auction. So, JP, that's my take, and it's harsh. And it's not to take anything away from Wobb. I think they do a great job presenting it. But this car is niche and it's special. And it needs that circus to find the buyer. Where are you at on the beautiful 208S by Mato?
Whew, that was a lot about a car no one's ever heard of. A V8 2-liter, the cylinders the size of AA batteries. Elana, do you know what this is? Do you know anything about these?
I am familiar with the brand, and I know about that era of sort of coach-built cars where each one was a little bit different, using sort of the underpinnings of a Fiat or of a Maserati or something like that. So I wouldn't judge the class at Pebble, but I have heard of it before.
Yeah, right. All right, Deeb, what's it going to bring? We're at the end of the show, so what do we got?
All right, JP. Again, Classic says that the average selling price for these is $1.5. Our car is currently sitting at $500,000, and it closes in 2 days. It does have 15 bids, and it does have good action. And again, BAT is the biggest auction site in the world, so maybe it gets to 1.5. But my feeling is that this car will hammer for $1.1 million and fail to sell. And by nobody's fault, I just think a car like this should go to a live auction. Where are you at from 1.1?
When does this close?
In 2 days.
In 2 days, yeah, that's tough because everyone's on their way to Monterey on top of,
right.
You know, they're not even looking at the computer. So, yeah, that's the worst. I don't even think it's going to break $1 million. I think it's going to FTS at $750,000. Elana, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. I can't understand why you would put a car like this up to close like a day or two before Monterey.
During Monterey.
Yeah. So everybody's already there. They're saving their money for something that they can, pet. And this is the kind of car that needs a whole education along with it. It needs somebody talking it up like you were doing. Like, all the listeners are going to be really excited about it now because they heard you talk about how cool it is. But if you're just looking at it, you don't know about it, you're scrolling right past it. I think it's not going to sell, and I think it's going to stall out at 800.
800, very good.
Bid. All right, Elana, where do we find you when you're not hanging out with bid nerds?
Well, you will find me looking at much, much cheaper cars on Facebook Marketplace.
Me both.
And then wrenching on the 16 cars that my husband and I have purchased over the last few years. So, but I am senior features editor at Car and Driver. I have a column in the magazine, and I write reviews and features that are up on caranddriver.com. And my husband and I have a YouTube channel about our terrible Facebook Marketplace cars, and that is Challenge Her. And I am also on Instagram as Challenge Her. So come say hi. Tell me what a bad job I did, and I'll apologize.
Never. No apologies. Elana, thank you. Elana Scherr, everyone. Check her out on her IG. And if you're really smart, read her columns at Car and Driver, one of our favorite magazines. Elana, have a great Monterey Car Week. We hope we run into you so we can say hi. Thank you so much for being our hostess with the mostess.
Oh, thanks for having me.
That's right. And if you are going to Car Week, I think the probably come and find us at Works Reunion. That's going to be the one place I know we'll be. We'll be there all day. We'll be hanging out with our good friends from Godden Porsche and Godden Classic with their entry to the Porsche Challenge, the Porsche Classic Restoration Challenge.
944 Turbo S, right?
944 Turbo S. And you can see the film that yours truly made on their YouTube channel, on the Godden Porsche YouTube channel. channel. I'll be putting it on Cars Unknown here after the competition is over. But
Awesome.
if you want to check out that film sooner, check it out. We had a lot of fun making it. And again, thanks, Elana, for being here. And Michael Deeb, I will see you. Let's hear Wednesday night, and then we'll see you in Monterey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have one more show before we launch ourselves to Monterey. Good night, Herd. Thank you.
See you guys. Bye.